As we grow older, why do people expect us to explain ourselves more when we've actually earned the right to explain ourselves less? There comes a quiet moment in life, usually later than we wish, when you realize that not everyone deserves access to you. Not your stories, not your wounds, not your plans, and definitely not your regrets. Old age doesn't make you weak. It makes you clear. There is a quiet kind of pain that lives inside regret. It doesn't shout. It doesn't demand attention. It sits patiently in the background of our lives, waiting for moments of vulnerability to resurface. As we grow older, those regrets often feel heavier, not because they have grown larger, but because we finally understand their consequences. We understand what they cost us: time, relationships, health, peace. And that understanding can tempt us to share them, to unload them, to believe that speaking them aloud will somehow make them lighter. But here is the hard truth: not every listener is safe, and not every ear is kind. When you share your deepest regrets, you are not just telling a story from your past, you are handing someone a piece of your inner life. You are trusting them with moments where you were human, imperfect, uncertain, or afraid. And while we like to believe people will meet that honesty with compassion, experience teaches us otherwise. Many people do not know how to hold regret gently. They analyze it, they judge it, they compare it to their own lives. And sometimes they quietly use it to elevate themselves. What was meant to be a moment of connection becomes a moment of exposure. With age comes the clarity to see that regret does not need an audience to be healed. In fact, regret often heals best in silence, reflection, and self-forgiveness. When you have already faced your past, learned its lessons, and chosen to move forward, reopening those wounds for the curiosity or entertainment of others only pulls you backward. Some people will remind you of your regret not to help you grow, but to keep you small, to freeze you in a version of yourself that no longer exists. There is also the uncomfortable reality that people remember what you regret more vividly than what you've overcome. You might share a story hoping to explain yourself, only to realize later that this single moment becomes how they define you. They forget the strength it took to survive. They forget the wisdom you gained. They remember the mistake. And once a regret is spoken, you cannot control how it is retold, reshaped, or repeated. What was once private becomes public property in the hands of the wrong person. As we age, our energy becomes precious. We no longer have the luxury of repairing misunderstandings created by oversharing. We no longer want to spend our days clarifying, defending, or justifying choices we made when we were younger and knew less. Sharing deep regret often invites advice we didn't ask for, opinions we don't need, and judgments we've already moved beyond. Instead of offering comfort, it can reopen shame you worked hard to release. There is also a subtle power shift that happens when you reveal your deepest regrets. Some people unconsciously use that information to position themselves above you, to speak down to you, or to feel morally superior. They may say nothing at all, but you feel it in the way they look at you differently. The way respect quietly changes shape. Old age teaches us that dignity is not about hiding who we are. It is about choosing who gets to truly know us. This does not mean that regret should be buried or denied. It means it should be shared selectively, if at all. There are rare souls who listen without judgment, who don't interrupt with solutions, who don't store your pain for future reference. These people are not many, and they do not reveal themselves quickly. Wisdom is knowing the difference between a safe heart and a curious mind. At a certain stage in life, you realize that your regrets are no longer confessions, they are history. And history does not need to be explained to everyone who asks. You are allowed to keep parts of your life sacred. You are allowed to protect the chapters that shaped you the most. Silence, in this case, is not avoidance. It is self-respect. When you stop sharing your deepest regrets, something unexpected happens. You begin to feel lighter, not heavier. You stop reliving old pain through other people's reactions. You stop giving your past the power to define your present. You understand that growth is not proven by how much you reveal, but by how peacefully you live. Old age is not the time to reopen old wounds for validation. It is the time to sit with the wisdom those wounds gave you and move forward with grace. Some stories are meant to teach you, not the world. And some regrets, once understood and forgiven, deserve rest, not repetition. When we are young, we are taught to speak our dreams out loud. We are encouraged to share our goals, announce our plans, and invite others into our vision of the future. It feels hopeful, even empowering, to say, this is what I'm going to do next. But as life unfolds and years pass, experience teaches a quieter, more careful lessons. Not every plan grows stronger when it is exposed. In old age, future plans become delicate. They require peace, focus, and protection far more than applause or approval. Sharing your future plans may seem harmless, even natural. After all, what's wrong with letting people know what you're working toward? The problem is not the plan itself. It's the environment you place it in. When you speak your intentions out loud, you invite opinions. Some are well-meaning, others are careless, and some are quietly destructive. People project their own fears onto your future. They measure your plans against their limitations. And before you realize it, the excitement you felt begins to shrink under the weight of doubt. As we grow older, our margin for distraction becomes smaller. We no longer have endless energy to defend our dreams or re-explain our choices. Every unnecessary conversation drains something from us. When you share a future plan, you often end up spending more time justifying it than nurturing it. You answer questions you didn't ask for. You explain timelines that are still forming in your heart. You absorb skepticism that was never yours to carry. Slowly, the plan that once felt clear becomes noisy. There is also a subtle emotional cost to sharing plans too early. When people know what you intend to do, they begin to watch. They ask for updates. They measure progress. And if life shifts, as it often does, they may see change as failure. But maturity teaches us that changing direction is not weakness, it is wisdom. Some plans are meant to evolve quietly. Some dreams need room to breathe without being observed. In old age, plans are often deeply personal. They are shaped by health, energy, finances, and a clear understanding of time. You are no longer planning to impress anyone. You are planning to protect your peace. When others hear your plans, they may unintentionally treat them as open for discussion, negotiation, or critique. What they don't realize is that you have already done the thinking. You have already weighed the risks. You have already lived enough life to know what matters to you. Another truth we learn with age is that not everyone wants to see us grow. This is uncomfortable to admit, but necessary. Some people are comfortable with the version of you they already know. Your future plans challenge that familiarity. They signal change, independence, or renewal. And while no one may openly oppose you, doubt can show up as concern, discouragement disguised as advice or silence where support should be. Protecting your plans means protecting yourself from this quiet resistance. There is power in moving in silence. When you keep your plans private, you allow them to be shaped by your own intuition rather than external noise. You make decisions based on alignment, not approval. You move at your own pace. You are free to fail, adjust, and begin again without explaining yourself. Silence gives your plans strength because it keeps them rooted in your inner world where they belong. This does not mean living in isolation or secrecy. It means discernment. It means recognizing that your future is not a group project. You do not owe anyone early access to your next chapter. At this stage of life, you have earned the right to reveal your plans only when they are real, ready, and resilient enough to stand on their own. There is also a quiet joy in letting people discover your growth rather than hear about it in advance. When results speak, explanations are unnecessary. When your life reflects your intentions, words become optional. Old age teaches us that peace often comes from doing more and saying less. Your future plans are not fragile because of age, they are precious because of it. Time has taught you that not every seed should be exposed to every season. Some must stay underground until they are strong enough to break through. Protecting your plans is not fear. It is wisdom. And sometimes the most powerful way to honor your future is to keep it quietly your own. Money carries a strange kind of emotional weight, especially as we grow older. It is never just about numbers. It represents years of effort, sacrifices that went unseen, risks that kept us awake at night, and choices that shaped our lives in ways no one else fully understands. And yet, for some reason, people feel unusually comfortable asking about it. How much you earn, how you manage, what you saved, what you lost. In old age, sharing financial details may seem harmless, even practical, but experience teaches us that it often comes with consequences we don't expect. When you talk openly about your finances, you invite assumptions. People begin to calculate your worth, not based on your character or wisdom, but on what they think you possess. Some may see you as a resource. Others may see you as irresponsible. Very few will see the full story. They won't see the years you went without so others could have more. They won't see the mistakes you paid for with hard lessons. They only see a number, and numbers are easy to judge. As we age, financial conversations also change the way people relate to us. If they believe you have more, expectations quietly appear. You may notice subtle shifts, requests disguised as favors, opinions offered without being asked, entitlement masked as closeness. If they believe you have less, respect can quietly fade. Advice becomes condescending. Pity replaces understanding. Either way, the relationship is no longer balanced. It is influenced by information that should have remained private. There is also the emotional exhaustion that comes from explaining your financial choices. Why you didn't invest there, why you helped one person and not another, why you live the way you do. Opinions offered without being asked, entitlement masked as closeness. If they believe you have less, respect can quietly fade. Advice becomes condescending. Pity replaces understanding. Either way, the relationship is no longer balanced. It is influenced by information that should have remained private. There is also the emotional exhaustion that comes from explaining your financial choices. Why you didn't invest there, why you helped one person and not another, why you live the way you do. In old age, you should not have to defend the financial decisions you made to survive, support, and grow. You have already paid the price for every choice, good or bad. Reopening those explanations drains energy better spent on peace. Another hard truth is that money information rarely stays confidential. Even when shared with trust, it often travels. It becomes a topic of discussion when you are not present. Details get exaggerated, misunderstood, or reshaped. What began as honesty turns into rumor. And once financial details are out in the open, you cannot pull them back. You lose control of how your life is discussed. Sharing financial details can also create pressure within families. Comparisons begin. Old tensions resurface. Past support is remembered selectively. People measure fairness based on numbers rather than circumstances. In old age, when family harmony matters more than ever, money talk can quietly reopen conflicts that took years to settle. There is also a deeper reason to protect this part of your life dignity. Financial privacy is not about secrecy or shame. It is about self-respect. You are allowed to have boundaries around what you earn, save, or spend. You are allowed to enjoy what you built without explaining it. Silence does not mean dishonesty. It means ownership. With time, you learn that people who truly care about you do not need access to your financial details to respect you. They value your presence, your guidance, your stories, and your care. Those who insist on knowing your finances often want information, not connection. Wisdom is knowing the difference. There is a quiet freedom in keeping your financial life private. You move without external pressure. You make choices based on your needs, not expectations. You give when you want to give, not when you feel obligated. You protect yourself from manipulation, guilt, and misunderstanding. In old age, this freedom matters more than approval. Money is one of the most misunderstood aspects of a life well lived. It does not measure your struggles, your resilience, or your growth. Sharing financial details rarely brings closeness. More often, it brings complication. Protecting that information is not selfish. It is practical. It is wise. At a certain point in life, you realize that peace is more valuable than transparency. Your finances are part of your personal story, and not everyone deserves to read that chapter. Some things are best kept quiet, not out of fear, but out of deep respect for yourself and the life you worked so hard to build. Family conflicts carry a unique kind of weight. They are not simple disagreements or passing misunderstandings. They are layered with history, loyalty, love, disappointment, and expectations that have been building for decades. When conflict happens within a family, it touches something deep and personal, because family is where we first learned who we are and how the world works. In old age, these conflicts often feel even heavier, not because they are new, but because they have lasted so long. And yet, there is a strong temptation to talk about them, to explain, to seek validation from people outside the family. This is where wisdom asks us to pause. When you share unresolved family conflicts with outsiders, you are often hoping for understanding or comfort. You want someone to say, "You were right," or "That wasn't fair," or "I see how much that hurt you." And sometimes you do get that response, but what you don't get is resolution. Outsiders can listen, but they cannot truly hold the complexity of family dynamics. They don't know the full history, the silent sacrifices, the moments of love that existed alongside the pain. They hear one chapter of a long story and form an opinion that may not serve you or your family well. Once family conflicts are shared outside, they rarely stay contained. Opinions solidify, sides are chosen, labels are formed. The people you talk to may begin to see your family members through a narrow lens, shaped only by the conflict you described. And when time passes and relationships shift, when forgiveness begins or understanding grows, those outside opinions remain frozen. You are left carrying not only your own pain, but also the judgments of others who were never meant to be part of the story. In old age, unresolved family issues are often sensitive because time feels different. There is an awareness that opportunities for repair may be limited. Sharing these conflicts with outsiders can deepen resentment rather than heal it. Each time you retell the story, the emotions are reinforced. Anger becomes familiar, hurt becomes rehearsed. Instead of softening with time, the conflict hardens through repetition. What we repeatedly speak, we repeatedly relive. There is also a quiet danger in allowing outsiders to validate only one side of a family conflict. While validation feels good in the moment, it can lock you into a fixed narrative. You become the one who was wronged. They become the one who caused harm. And while this may be partially true, family relationships are rarely that simple. Growth often requires room for nuance, for reflection, and sometimes for silence. Outsider validation can make reconciliation harder, not easier. As we grow older, we also become more aware of how deeply family conflicts affect our peace. Carrying them is already exhausting. Adding public discussion to them only increases the burden. You may notice that after talking about family issues, you feel temporarily relieved, but later emotionally drained. The conversation did not free you. It tied you more tightly to the pain. Another reason to keep unresolved family conflicts private is respect for your own emotional boundaries. Family wounds are intimate. They formed over years of closeness, shared spaces, and shared memories. Not everyone deserves access to that level of vulnerability. Protecting those details is not about protecting others. It is about protecting yourself from exposure that brings no healing. This does not mean you must suffer in silence or deny your feelings. It means choosing carefully where and how you express them. There is a difference between thoughtful reflection and repeated storytelling. There is a difference between seeking understanding and seeking agreement. In old age, wisdom lies in recognizing which conversations bring peace and which keep wounds open. Family conflicts often resolve slowly, if at all. Sometimes resolution comes not through confrontation or explanation, but through acceptance, boundaries, and inner healing. Sharing those conflicts widely can interfere with that process. It keeps the conflict alive in spaces where it no longer belongs. At a certain point in life, you realize that not every story needs an audience. Some stories need time, some need distance, and some need quiet compassion directed inward rather than outward. Protecting unresolved family conflicts from public discussion is not avoidance. It is a form of emotional maturity. Old age teaches us that peace is fragile and precious. Guarding it sometimes means choosing silence over storytelling. Family conflicts are part of your personal history, but they do not need to define your present or be explained unto the world. Some things are best held with care, not because they are shameful, but because they are deeply human. There is a particular kind of fear that becomes more noticeable as we grow older. It doesn't arrive all at once, and it doesn't always have words. It shows up quietly in moments of stillness, in late night thoughts, in the awareness of time passing faster than it once did. Fears about aging or death are deeply human, and having them does not mean you are weak or pessimistic. It means you are paying attention. But wisdom teaches us that not every fear should be spoken out loud, especially not to just anyone. When you share your fears about aging or death, you are revealing one of the most vulnerable parts of your inner life. You are exposing questions that may not even have answers yet. And while vulnerability can be powerful, it is only powerful when it is met with care. Too often, these fears are met with discomfort, dismissal, or shallow reassurance. People rush to change the subject, offer cliches, or make light of something that feels heavy to you. Instead of feeling understood, you feel more alone. Some people respond to these fears with judgment. They may tell you that you're being negative, dramatic, or ungrateful. Others may use your honesty to project their own fears onto you, amplifying anxiety instead of easing it. What began as a moment of trust turns into a reminder that not everyone knows how to sit with uncomfortable truths. In old age, you learn that emotional safety matters more than emotional expression. There is also a quiet risk in speaking these fears aloud too often. The more you repeat them, the more real and heavy they can begin to feel. Words have power. When fears are constantly voiced without resolution, they can grow louder in your mind. Silence, on the other hand, can sometimes soften fear. It allows space for reflection, acceptance, and inner strength to develop without interference. Another reason to guard these fears is that people often remember them long after you have moved past them. You might share a moment of vulnerability only to find that others later treat you as fragile, anxious, or incapable. They may begin to speak to you differently, limit you for your own good, or make assumptions about your strength. In trying to be honest, you unintentionally invite others to redefine you in ways that don't reflect who you truly are. As we age, fears about the future often coexist with wisdom, gratitude, and resilience. But when we share only the fear, others may miss the fullness of who we are. They don't see the courage it takes to keep living fully despite uncertainty. They don't see the calm that also lives alongside the fear. They see only the vulnerability, and not everyone knows how to honor it. There is also a deeply personal nature to fears about aging and death. These fears are shaped by your experiences, beliefs, losses, and values. They are not problems to be solved by advice or opinions. When shared with the wrong listener, they become topics for debate or philosophy rather than feelings that need quiet understanding. This can make you feel exposed rather than supported. Keeping these fears private does not mean denying them. It means choosing to process them in ways that bring peace rather than noise. It may mean sitting with them in silence, writing them down, reflecting on them or sharing them only with someone who has proven they can listen without fixing, judging, or minimizing. Such people are rare, and wisdom is knowing that rare.